You're listening to Fast Food Film Friends, the podcast where we tell you what to put not only in your mouth, but also in your eyes.
That is right, Kevin. And fans of our show know that the way our episodes are usually structured, we talk about a movie.
Yes.
We eat some fast food. We kind of, we pile it all together into one big review. But today's episode is going to be a little bit different.
It's a special one today. I'd say momentous, almost.
So recently, you finished watching all Star Wars films for the first time, correct? You had never seen any Star Wars films until a couple months ago.
That is 100% correct. I'm a big movie guy, as you and the fans of this show know.
But that was a bit of a blind spot.
It was a total blind spot. I never saw him when I was a kid, and I never really got the hype, and I never had interest until probably a couple years ago. I have a 5-year-old, so that was part of it. I wanted him to experience it as well. But it was my first run through. I got a lot of heat throughout my life for not having seen Star Wars movies.
Yeah, I'm sure.
A lot of heat.
And so today, Kevin and I are just going to be talking about all Star Wars films. And the reason why I thought that would be a great idea for an episode is that I grew up loving Star Wars.
Oh.
From the time I think I was like 3 years old when I first saw Star Wars. And my childhood was loosely based on the Star Wars sagas. And due to the fact that I grew up with Star Wars, I've loved it for decades, and that you just saw it recently, I thought it'd be fun to talk about it with you.
Not only are we going to be talking about Star Wars, we also have to go with it. Sticking with the stars and the cosmos, we have from Dunkin' Donuts there, just very odd-looking cosmic Coolatas. Coolatta or Coolatas? How would you...
Coolatas.
Coolatas. And these are... Mine is cotton candy flavored. And it's basically just looks like a blended, icy, sugary mess. Described by Dunkin' Donuts as featuring cotton candy flavored Coolatta topped with blue raspberry. Is Coolatta an actual thing?
So, according to their website, Coolatta is a frozen beverage with fun, refreshing flavors that are sure to make you smile.
Wow.
So we're going to see how accurate that is.
Yeah.
And the one that I'm drinking is actually a cosmic pineapple Coolatta, which brings together pineapple-flavored Coolatta with blue raspberry.
They both invoke the blue raspberry.
It's extremely lazy on their part.
Yeah, it is pretty lazy. Also, I do want, for those of you who didn't get to listen to our episode last week, we tried some drinks. One of them being, well, I guess blizzards aren't technically drinks. They do turn them upside down. But we did try a cotton candy blizzard that was horrendously flavored. And Nathan was very quick to make sure that I had to be stuck with the cotton candy Coolatta tonight.
Well, as our day one fans will know, in our first episode, you and I drank freezes from Taco Bell.
Yeah.
And we had a Baja Blast freeze and a Skittles strawberry freeze.
Yeah.
And I wanted the Baja Blast freeze as well. That's the one that you were drinking.
True.
But I drank the Skittles strawberry, for the fans.
That's
and
fair.
It was awful. And so I felt it was only fair to drink the one that to drink the Coolatta that is more appetizing.
Yeah, that is fair. I did forget that you took the bullet with the Skittle freeze.
Tit for tat.
Tit for tat, indeed. Indubitably. We both had to experience a terrible cotton candy blizzard, but I get it.
So we should make very clear that we are going to be spoiling all existing Star Wars films.
I think I was the last person on Earth who hadn't seen these anyway, so I think everyone...
Well, yeah, I would also... In that, I am including all recent films.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we are, as of the time we're recording this, Solo is not yet out. It comes out in a couple weeks.
True.
And so, obviously, won't be touching that one.
Yes.
But, Last Jedi, Force Awakens, Rogue One, the original movies, the prequels, we're going to be spoiling all of those.
We are. I do want to break Nathan's heart right now, though, and let him know that I did not finish Rogue One.
You started it, but didn't finish.
It was a long day, and I started it right around nap time. Not my nap time, but it did eventually turn into my nap time. And I did fall asleep. And I think the reason why was because when it started, I didn't recognize anyone. I had no idea what was going on. And I wasn't involved. And you know what?
Right.
My body just said, nobody we know, shut
down.
down.
You had to turn your brain on
Shut
for
down.
like 10 seconds, and that was just too much to ask of you.
Yeah.
So, I want to jump right in.
Do it.
And so I'm assuming that you watched these movies in the order they were released, correct?
I did, yes. Yes, I watched the sequels first.
The original trilogy.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And I thought that was the right way to do it. I have been asking people my entire life what the correct order is, and literally every single Star Wars fans, it seemed like, has a different theory as to how you should watch them. Some even thought that I should like mix them up, kind of slice and dice a little bit.
Yeah, there's kind of like this well-known thing called machete order, which means like you watch episode 4 and 5, and then once you hit that big twist at the end of episode 5, you go back, watch episodes 2 and 3, which give you the backstory of Darth Vader. Then after that, you go back and watch episode 6, which concludes the original saga, and you skip episode 1 altogether.
Wow, they macheted it right out.
And that's becoming a pretty popular way of watching these movies for the first time. So in that original trilogy,
yes,
which one's your favorite?
I think, and it is tough, but my favorite out of those 3 would have to be Return of the Jedi.
Yeah,
I believe. Yeah.
That was definitely my favorite as a child. All the climaxes coming together. I was a big fan of how that was orchestrated.
Wow, nice moves. I am also consider myself a child in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
Currently, so that makes sense. I think I'm definitely going to be rewatching all of these because I was honestly when I watched the first, probably after this, halfway through the second one, because the first one I liked a lot. I was into it. I was like, wow, this is actually better than I thought. And throughout the second one, about halfway through, I thought, wow, I'm actually like connected to these people, feeling like I'm way into it, digging what's going on. And I did not think I was going to get hooked by these movies, but I was honestly surprised by how hard they hooked me with 1.5 movies.
Yeah.
And I get it now. I get why people are so crazy about them.
Yeah, Empire Strikes Back is a very, like, an intimate, character-driven movie.
Yeah, it is.
It's kind of...
It's
amazing. Sister-kissing movie, yeah. It's amazing how much the tone shifts throughout those original 3 movies, because your first film is kind of this, like, classic, almost standalone, like, hero story.
Sci-fi, yeah.
Your second one is, like, gets way deep in these characters' lives, relationships, family, and, romantic and all that. And then the Return of the Jedi is, like, just like a big, fun kids movie, kind of.
Yes.
For the most part.
Yeah.
Like, it's, with the Ewoks and with the space battles.
I love those little Ewoks, man. And I like, I don't know what they're called, but the big things he rides. Tauntaun, maybe?
Tauntaun? On the snow planet.
Yeah.
Hoth. Yeah.
That's another thing, too. I loved all the practical effects. Like, just ate them up. And I went to an actual movie store to rent these.
Yeah.
And I made sure that I got the ones that were unedited. Not remastered by George Lucas, because this movie store that I think still technically exists in 1995, I think you have to go through a time warp to get there, somehow kept all the unremastered copies.
They're DVDs, though?
They are DVDs.
Yeah, there's been over the last 20 years, there's been 3 or 4 new editions of the original films, and they get worse every time.
That's what I've heard.
If you watch the newest Blu-ray versions, I mean, they added Hayden Christensen into the original films. There's some really terrible CGI. Yeah, there's a lot of bad stuff. There's they changed a lot of things. That's a whole other can of worms.
Dumb. It is another can of worms.
Now, before we talk about the prequels, I want to go ahead and dive into these cosmic Coollattas.
Let's do it. I can't wait to get some more terrible cotton candy artificial flavor all up and over my tongue. Wow. Oh, that grabs your molars. Wow, that is sugary as hell.
Wow.
That's just, it tastes like there's, do we know how many grams of sugar are in this? Because it tastes like there's honestly 200 grams of sugar.
It looks like the Dunkin' Donuts Coolattas, the medium size, which is what we're drinking, have 90 grams of sugar.
Wow.
And mine essentially tastes like a combination of pineapple juice and blue raspberry juice, which that's what I've signed up for.
Yeah.
That's what it is, but
I would say mine tastes just like cotton candy juice. So
I have
that does make a lot of sense.
little desire to keep drinking, but I will.
I don't know if I will. Now I'm going to move my straw up here because I have been sucking from the melted bottom, trying to get a little slush.
Yeah, these melted very fast.
Now, if you get up to that slush, I see you're still drinking out of the bottom too. It's a whole different. It's way less sugary, mainly because it's just ice now, and the sugar water is seeping out of it.
That is a better balance.
But that's a much better balance.
It's all about your straw placement.
It is. It is.
So, speaking of not wanting to go further, I want to talk about the prequels.
Okay.
Because they get a lot of shit.
They do.
And I think that we could sit here all day tearing apart these movies, talking about everything they do wrong.
I do not have such a passionate, fiery hate for the prequels like so many people do.
Well, that's where I was going with this, is that we could tear them down, but I would rather talk about what we liked about them.
Oh.
So, what are some things that you found interesting in those movies?
Boba. Big
Boba
fan of
Fett.
Boba. Yeah.
The little Boba or his dad Jango?
I really enjoy both, I have to say. Little baby Boba was adorable. And I liked how loyal he was to his pops.
I mean, the scene where he holds his dad's head.
Yeah.
That's pretty heavy.
And this is something, I go on Reddit a lot, so this is something I've seen on Reddit. His head flies out of that helmet before the little boy picks it up. You can see the shadow.
Right.
So
I think
picks up his helmet.
I think it's more symbolic.
Yeah.
He's holding his helmet.
Yeah, but you said his head. I'm just saying his head's not in the helmet.
All right.
Like some viewers might think.
You got me on that one.
Sorry, I know Star Wars.
So I think that the dialogue in the prequels is by far the biggest weakness. It's just like, it's awful, and it kind of, I think it makes for what seems like some really bad performances from actors, but really it's just awful dialogue.
I think it's bad performances too, though. I mean, Anakin Hayden Christensen is a nightmare.
Yeah,
an emotionless nightmare. And I guess he's kind of supposed to be emotionless and, battle between the good and the bad, but holy shit is he bad. And Liam Neeson, okay. He's okay.
I mean, he's stoic.
He's supposed to be.
Yeah. Exactly. Again, these characters are, I guess it's not just the dialogue, the way that these scripts are written, these characters are meant to be boring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will give you that.
And that's a big contrast compared to the original trilogy's characters.
I think probably my favorite actor in terms of their acting abilities is the tiny little baby Anakin.
Little baby,
not the actual
Lloyd.
baby, not the actual baby, but the young man.
Jake Lloyd, I think, is who you're talking about.
Could be.
He's
the pod racer.
Yeah, he's got some great delivery. Yeah,
he's got some of the lines that my old roommates used to quote endlessly.
Now this is pod racing.
That and but I was gonna go down to dinner to get some dinner.
That's actually Luke. Luke says that in A New Hope.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
Oh my God, this is why I need to rewatch.
Go to the Tashi station, pick up some power converters.
Yes, that's the line that has been embedded in my head, but I still don't remember it because my old roommate used to say that anytime he got bad news.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. There's actually this really interesting featurette that I think was included with like the Phantom Menace DVD, like a bonus feature that was a little like short documentary that went along with it. It's on YouTube now, and for some reason it like went viral last year. I'm not really sure why that is, or maybe it was newly released. I'm not sure. Regardless, it shows a lot of the struggles that they had when filming that movie, and one of the biggest ones was casting Anakin because they knew that was a crucial role.
Yeah.
And then once they did cast him, he was kind of struggling. And so I think, it's easy to say in retrospect, like, oh, you made the wrong choice. Who knows if it was right or wrong, but
I think
he's not selling the part.
No.
He and Hayden Christensen are both two of the weakest links, of the prequels, God. I would say.
Ruthless. What about Ewan?
Ewan McGregor?
No, the other Ewan.
I thought you were asking, what about me and...
okay.
I was waiting for you to finish your sentence.
No. What about Mr. McGregor? I apologize. Mr. McGregor.
I think he's great.
I like him too.
One of the highlights of this trilogy.
Other than Natalie Portman, who is not a great actress, but pretty cute.
She's doing what the script really expects of her. She's also kind of this
stoic.
Yeah.
Again.
That's how all these characters are. It's kind of bizarre.
Now, you're kind of turning me, I don't want to say to the dark side, but to the pessimistic side about these prequels, but with everything that comes out of your mouth.
Well, let's keep going. You told me that you thought Revenge of the Sith was a pretty good movie. Mm-hmm. I really like that movie for the most part. Mm-hmm. Why do you like that one more than the first two?
I think it's after watching the first two, like you said, there's obviously action, but it's not like a culmination. It's not a huge, there's not a lot of resolve, I guess is what I'm
It's kind of all building up to episode 3.
Yes, and then it lets loose in episode 3.
Yeah.
And I was way more into that one. I think episode 2 kind of just not much meat to it, I guess you could say.
No.
But I just, I love Samuel L. Jackson, good old Mace Windu.
Yeah, he's great.
In Revenge of the Sith. I like the evil robot who has like 18 lightsabers attached to him.
Yeah, General Grievous, yeah.
Sure. I like that name a lot now. And yeah, just I really like when Yoda fights. I very much enjoy watching Yoda.
Yeah, it's fun.
It is.
I remember being in the theater. One of my best movie-going experiences in my life was sitting in the theater watching Attack of the Clones. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, nobody had any idea what was about to happen. And Yoda walks in with his cane.
Yes.
Has his lightsaber. And, the place just goes insane.
Yeah.
Like, people are losing their minds.
I bet.
It was amazing.
I lost my mind here. And even, I was, again, watching with my son, and he, started laughing hysterically at Yoda fighting because it was just, you don't imagine that little green guy moving so fast.
No.
Agile.
And now you mentioned General Grievous. I think that one of the things that Revenge of the Sith kind of does wrong is it kind of, I feel like, wastes opportunities with villains. Mm-hmm. Count Dooku is dead in 20 minutes into the movie.
Yeah, he really gets taken out.
General Grievous, he's in the movie for maybe an hour, and then we're brought to, the confrontation between Anakin and Obi-Wan and all that in the last half of the movie.
Yep.
It kind of reminds me of, do you remember Spider-Man 3?
No, because as we discussed in depth during our Marvel episode, I have not seen anything other than the first Tobey Maguire Spider-Man.
Well, I won't go off on too much of a tangent, but Spider-Man 3 does a similar thing with introducing 3 villains and not using any of them.
Is that the one that was Sandman
and Venom?
Okay.
And
Circus Man or something, I would assume.
James Franco. He's basically the new Green Goblin in that movie.
Oh, yeah.
There's
he was the Green Goblin's son or something.
And we'll save that for the Spider-Man universe episode, which we're doing next week.
I will not do that.
And so, between the originals and the prequels, is it safe to say you prefer the originals?
Yes,
by far?
I mean, that's safe to say. I think you'd be crazy not to. Just, if you have any questions, just go line up the DVD covers, and that's all you need to look at right there. It's the first ones are epic, from the books that were written. They're the epic covers of a guy, the lightsaber up in the air, Han Solo pointing at you. And then the old ones are all just the terrible actors' faces, or the prequels are all just the terrible actors' faces really up close, and there's nothing to it. And I think that the covers of the DVDs really outlined how I felt about those movies and the substance of those movies. Really bad acting or great stories in the prequels or sequels. God, I'm going to keep messing that up.
Well, see, there's the original trilogy, which is the movies from the 70s and 80s.
Yes.
There's the prequel trilogy. Mm-hmm. And then the movies that we're currently in present day, those are referred to as the sequel trilogy.
Oh.
So those are known as, the sequels. So, but it's funny that you mentioned the cover art for the movies, because when I was little 4-year-old Nathan running around
looking at Luke Skywalker's bare chest on that first DVD
it's
cover.
Quite beefy.
It is.
My parents would take us to the video store, and every weekend my parents would rent a movie, my sister would rent a movie, and I would rent a movie.
You're getting 3 movies a weekend as a child?
My family would collectively watch one movie on Friday night, and on Saturday or Sunday, whenever we wanted, my sister and I would just watch our own movies independently. Saturday morning, I wake up and I want to watch the movie I rented, that kind of thing.
In your own
every single week for years straight, I would just alternate different Star Wars films.
Hey.
For some reason, I didn't understand the concept of owning them. I could have asked for them for Christmas.
Probably $10.
But instead, there was the 3 VHS covers, which these particular editions were the first one was half of Darth Vader's head.
Yeah.
Empire Strikes Back was half of Stormtrooper's head. Return of the Jedi was half of Yoda's head. And I would just sit there and look at these covers in the video store.
Yeah.
And it was just this rush filled me. I love these movies so much. They were so integral with my childhood.
To how you turned out.
To how I turned out, that's right. And that being said, when a few years ago it was announced that Disney bought Lucasfilm and then there would be new Star Wars films, everybody, including myself, who was fans of Star Wars, was
panicked.
I think it's safe to say excited and a little bit worried that a large corporation has bought this beloved franchise. Because on one hand, Star Wars holds a special place in so many people's hearts.
Yes.
At the same time, the prequels were for the most part a disaster. And so George Lucas was really the one behind those prequels. And this new, sequel trilogy and these kind of spin-off films that have been coming out these last few years.
Yes.
They're coming out much more rapidly than Star Wars movies usually come out.
I was going to say.
Up until Disney owned Lucasfilm, these films came out 3 years apart.
Everyone.
So, the prequels, episode 1 came out in 99, next one was 02, next one was 05.
Okay.
3 years of waiting between movies. Now, there's one movie per year.
At least.
And, again, I was excited and worried.
Yeah.
These movies would not be the Star Wars that I loved from my childhood.
Mm-hmm. Did you know before they came out that they would be doing them at such a rapid pace? Did they announce that?
I don't think that was announced yet.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
But I went into Star Wars The Force Awakens with an open mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I really liked that movie. What was your experience watching that?
I was nervous as well because I had heard similar things. Obviously, it's Disney. So I was a little nervous, especially after watching Revenge of the Sith, which I liked a lot. I was like, I just don't like watching updates to movies. I normally don't like them. They normally don't work. I'm not a fan. Mm-hmm. And The Force Awakens blew me away with how much I think they went back to the original trilogy feel.
Yeah.
Honestly did. The one thing that really threw me, though, and I think it's basically right at the beginning, because throughout the whole 6 first films, you never empathize or identify with the stormtrooper. They're faceless, roaming the halls, shooting terribly, and they just get killed. And then when John, what's his name? Boyega takes his helmet off, and you're like, oh my god, they're like people because they stopped using clones. Mm-hmm. It blew my mind. I don't know how because I was like, I really feel bad for that guy, and I was like, oh, he's obviously having internal strife. But I was like, it weirded me out, and it made me so happy that they added a new element and made me feel something I hadn't felt at all when watching the original 6. But also just really stuck to the original field. Let's go on an adventure and let's see what happens. And I really liked that movie. That one, honestly, is up there for a potential favorite Star Wars movie for me. That's how much I liked it.
Yeah, I think it absolutely captures the fun of the original movies. And they introduce so many ideas that, like you said, were never in Star Wars. This idea of, good and bad being more of a gray area rather than black and white, which actually Rogue One deals with that a lot. If only you'd finish that movie, we could talk about it.
Let me tell you, it's a gray area.
But I think that Force Awakens had to do so much.
Yes.
It had to please the original fans, the middle-aged people who grew up with the originals. It had to appeal to the people who grew up with the prequels and actually like those movies. And that holds a special place in their hearts. Mm-hmm. And it had to garner attention not only from young children, but just from the general public. It had to get everybody on board with Star Wars again.
Yep.
And for the work that was cut out for it, I think it did an amazing job.
I agree.
I think it did really all those things. I mean, I think that the really main criticism that I have, it's a pretty common one, is that
it's the same as mine.
It kind of rips off of A New Hope. It's too similar to it.
Okay.
Even at one point when they're like, this is the Death Star, and this is the new thing. Yeah. You're like, seriously? Are we really doing this? But other than that, I mean, these characters, I instantly fell in love with these characters. After the first time watching that movie, I was like, I am on board with Finn and Rey.
I really liked, not Finn, what's his name? Poe.
Yeah.
Big fan of Poe.
He's great.
Big fan. And actually, I just found out that they're releasing comics of his storyline, and the new ones just were the total precursor to The Force Awakens and told about his whole backstory, which I'm going to actually go and buy a comic for the first time in my life because I actually want to read that.
Yeah.
But my one qualm with The Force Awakens, and I had hoped it was going to be the same as yours, Kylo Ren's mask voice is almost... You can't understand what he's saying at all. It's just annoying. I don't like it. I think his mask is cool. His lightsaber, obviously, super cool. Mm-hmm. But when he started talking, I was like, I mean, the sound guy just went a little overboard, I think.
Yeah. I the first time I watched the film, that was another thing that I did not like about it. And I actually, at first, was not a big fan of Kylo in general. And I felt like this guy is just by the way he sounds and looks and walks, he's just they're like, all right, let's take the classic villain, just amp him up and just make him,
make his voice more scrambled.
Exactly. Make his lightsaber look crazy. Make him be unhinged. Yeah. And at first I thought, okay, they're kind of going too far. This is kind of cheesy. But then after watching it and kind of understanding the person that he is, I get that that's very intentional because that's who he is that he idolizes Darth Vader, his grandfather.
Yeah.
And he wants to be iconic. Mm-hmm. He wants to be threatening and memorable. Legendary. And so, like, he's trying to do all those things, but he's basically just, like, you know, an emo kid trying to be evil.
He is.
And so he's not very good at it.
Did you think, and actually, before I get to that question, I think one of the big questions that I had asked myself the entire time that he solved for me was, so a lightsaber, I get that it can kill people, but why doesn't anyone ever just, like, cut through walls and stuff like that? I honestly thought that. So I was like, it's got to happen accidentally, but they never show it in any of the other movies. And then Kylo Ren just goes crazy on about 7 walls in that movie with his lightsaber.
Now, they did in Phantom Menace, near the beginning, Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon cut through these, like, really thick doors, like blaster doors, what they call them.
Oh,
but it takes a long time to slowly cut through them.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things about the Force and lightsabers that you wonder, why didn't anybody do this until now?
Yeah.
Which...
Let's not even get to The Last Jedi, if that's where you're going right now.
We'll get there. We'll get there soon. Before we get to that...
Wait, I have one more thing about The Force Awakens before we let the viewers in on this surprise. Did you think Kylo Ren was going to kill his dad when they were there on that bridge?
I saw it coming maybe like 10 seconds before it happened. Until then, I really wouldn't have thought it would, but I feel like that scene, the imagery and the build-up, like you kind of reach a point where you realize, like, oh, this is what's about to happen.
Yeah. I guess, I just didn't think you would actually go through with it. And then when he fell off, I was like, come on, pull one of your Han Solo, like, spectacular jumps and just hop back up. Did not. Nothing to jump off of.
Yeah, I thought that was, you know, as heartbreaking as it is, that was so necessary to build, you know, Kylo's character.
Yeah.
Like that, I think that kind of instantly turned him from this, like, childish person who you don't feel threatened by to someone who you're like, oh wow, like he's immature and he's out of control, but he's powerful, so he can use those for evil.
I don't know. I really like Han Solo. I think he's probably the person who, in my head, as a super cool person, who I identify with most. Because if I lived in a universe or a galaxy far, far away like this, I would definitely be a smuggler. And I'd definitely have a super fast ship. And I'd definitely hang out with large, hairy men. So I get Han Solo.
And you would certainly owe a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
I
don't need to go to a galaxy far away to owe a lot of money to big slimy worms.
Speaking of galaxies far away, you want to tell the viewers about our surprise snack we got?
I am already on sugar overload from these cosmic Coolattas. But I sure do. Also from Dunkin' Donuts, kind of the accompanying food, I guess you could call it that, for these terrifying Coolattas. Sticking with the space theme, it's a Comet Candy Donut. And now this donut is decorated with white icing and new pink, blue, and purple, cotton candy flavored Poppin Candy, sprinkled on top for a blast of flavorful fun. Now, when it says Poppin Candy, are these going to be like Pop Rocks on top of a donut that tastes like cotton candy?
I have no idea, but I cannot wait to find out.
I can wait my entire life. But
so I've kept this donut tightly sealed in the Dunkin' Donuts bag away from Kevin's eyesight because I caught a glimpse of it and I cannot wait for him to do the same.
It's a very ominous brown bag and it looks like what I would imagine crack was dealt in 1980. Oh my god. Oh, that is so gross looking.
So essentially it looks like we've got a pretty basic donut with not a lot of icing. And it's covered in what looks like pink, purple, and blue miniature popcorn?
I would say, what is the cereal? Not Fruity Pebbles, but it was actually shaped like little berries. Oh, God, what was that cereal? It looks just like it has blue, purple, and pink tumors growing out of the frosting. Some type of space mold is what it looks like is on top of this donut.
So before this disease gets out of control, we should probably take some bites of this.
Yeah, let's make that happen. Now, these sprinkles are not normal sprinkles. I want to say that they are quite large. I mean, compared to a normal sprinkle...
Supposedly they're popping.
Yeah, the popping part is what... confusing. They do actually look like miniature popcorn kernels, or like popped popcorn.
That is what I said about 3 minutes ago.
Is it?
Yeah.
I don't listen to anything you say. I don't know if you've noticed that yet.
So let's dig in.
Oh, God. Oh, the donut feels pretty soft and good, actually. Oh, my God. What are we doing with our lives? I'm not getting any pop.
I want to say, first of all, if this was a blind taste test and I had not read this description, cotton candy would not come to mind.
No.
Nothing about this
No.
is cotton candy flavored.
I think the sprinkles should carry more flavor. I just don't think they do.
And when the description said popping candy, I was expecting kind of like a Pop Rocks, kind of like a little party in my mouth.
Maybe this is a type of candy that we're just unaware of, called Poppin Candy.
I think that the candy was popped prior to this at the restaurant, and now we're eating the popped aftermath.
Now, to give Dunkin' Donuts some credit here, that's a damn good donut. Just the plain donut. Very soft, moist. Texture's great. Yeah. These sprinkles or whatever the hell is on top, though.
It's just adding a texture that I don't want. That's really all. That's all it is.
Terrible texture.
I really just want this donut. I'm gonna go ahead and actually taste some of this popping candy on its own and see if it brings out any more flavor.
Bold man. Wow, 2 different colors too. I don't think it's going to. Why don't you dip it in your Coolatta? That should bring out a little extra flavor.
Oh, it's popping.
No, it's not.
I swear to you, eat a few of them on their own.
I don't want to. Oh, God.
It's like a pop rock feeling, but like 1/4 of that sensation.
That's the kind of Pop Rocks I want to eat. Are Pop Rocks too exciting for you? Try Poppin Candy. It's like Pop Rocks, but less.
Do you feel it?
No, I think you might just be having a stroke. I feel no tingling on my tongue whatsoever.
I think that I want it so bad. Is it there?
It's there. I would say an eighth as much as Pop Rocks. I had like 4 or 5 little snap crackle pops. It's more like a light tingle.
It is so little feeling that apparently...
I just tried to get the popping rocks close to the microphone so you could hear them.
We're trying to break into that ASMR market online. The popping feeling is so insignificant that eating the candy with a bite of donut completely deadens it.
I think that's it.
Which is bizarre.
It gets coated with donut, and then you just swallow it to get it all out of your mouth.
So there's a bit of a popping party happening in my tum-tum right now.
Yeah, there's a lot happening in my tum-tum after that cosmic Coolatta cotton candy. I'd use another C word to round that out, but I'll choose not to because my mom might listen to this. I don't know. I'll give him credit for the donut. Now, speaking of things with 1/8 as much pop as the original, how about The Last Jedi? Because that one, I was way on board riding out of the Force Awakens. Pretty excited about it. My boy Poe was back, Kylo Ren. Still a little sad that Han Solo was dead. But I did not like this movie.
I want you to walk me through why.
I thought... Now, does Yoda die in The Force Awakens? Or does he die at the...
He died in Return of the Jedi.
Did he?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I mean, he just disappears. He's sleeping and he just fades away.
Yeah, that's how the Jedi apparently do it.
Yeah.
I just didn't like where we found Luke. Like, I don't see him ever becoming a hermit. And this could be because I watched about 10 videos today of Mark Hamill saying how much he didn't like this movie.
So you don't think that the movie's explanation for why Luke has turned out the way that he has, you didn't buy that?
I don't, because he's such an optimistic, like, adventurer, likes people. I don't see him ever being a hermit and being like, meh, 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 meh. Is what I think. That's how they introduced him.
Right. But he was responsible. He felt responsible for kind of undoing all the good that had been done. He thought that the world was a better place without him.
But clearly it wasn't. Clearly. And I think he would know that.
Yeah, I think the whole shutting himself off from the Force is kind of like a hard concept to wrap your mind around, because you're like...
Well, was he? He just wasn't using... I guess... Can you ever really fully shut yourself off from the Force? Like, it's sensing things around you.
I think he uses those exact words, but clearly he doesn't, because later in the movie he uses his Force abilities to their fullest extent.
Which we don't even know if that's the fullest extent, because Disney's probably going to introduce a new Force power every movie from here on out. That was my main issue with this, is, yeah, let's pop into another location on the other side of the world just by like meditating, and then appear 100% like not even a fuzzy halo around them or like anything. Like, I'm here, I'm real, I can have a lightsaber fight with somebody, but then they just can't kill me, and that's it. Like, and they just breeze by that, and I was left a very bad taste in my mouth.
Before we get any further talking about this movie, I'm just gonna say outright, The Last Jedi may possibly be my favorite Star Wars movie.
Are you for real?
And I think that it comes down to...
No, are you really serious?
I mean, if I had to rank them, it might be below Empire Strikes Back. But it's certainly a top 3 for me.
Wow.
I'm going to tell you why. Every nitpick that I've heard of this movie from friends, fans, all sorts of people, has to do with this movie does something that hasn't been done before, therefore it kind of breaks the logic of Star Wars. I think that a lot of, Leia's force sensitivity and her being able to save herself.
That I was
the hyperspeed sequence where the one ship destroys other ships by jumping into
I thought that was fine. I had taken no issue with those first two.
But you don't appreciate how Luke used a power that you think is so great that like it kind of breaks the logic of other movies.
I don't think it breaks the logic at all. It's if that was available, it would have been used so many times and so much more prominent that it would have been impossible to not be included in the first 3 movies at least once.
That's what I mean by break the logic. Like it kind of, you're saying that by including that in this movie, it kind of retroactively makes it makes the whole kind of storyline not make much sense. No. If this power is possible now, why wasn't it possible before?
I'm not saying that at all. At all. Now, we're close, but we're talking right past each other. All I'm saying, it very well could have been possible in the first 3, and they just didn't use it. Very unlikely, in my head. Extremely unlikely. I don't think it breaks the logic. I totally understand that the Force is a mysterious force, to say the least. And there are obviously things that people can do that we don't know because I'm sure nobody's garnished the full power of the Force yet. However, to just jump into that without any context or without saying like, oh my goodness, Luke can do this now. Like, nobody reacts to it like it's a big deal.
I don't think that's true. I think that once people realize that's what he's doing, they're pretty amazed by it in the end. Because you got all these giant walkers shooting at Luke. Yeah. You got Kylo fighting him. Everyone just kind of got their eyes on this fight, and once they realize it's happening, I think people are pretty blown away by it.
I don't know.
But what I wanted to say is that my love for this movie comes down to one thing.
Star Wars.
That is that this film is required such a level of imagination so far beyond what I could have even thought a Star Wars movie could be.
Why?
There are so many moments in this film. The same moments
I was just going to say, is it the 3 moments that everyone takes issue with?
The moments that people say,
oh my God.
Oh, this isn't possible. Oh, this isn't the Star Wars that I know. Yeah, it's not the Star Wars that you know. It's new and it's better.
Yeah, and I get that appeal. I do get that appeal. I have no issue with her saving herself. I think the Force is strong. You can move stuff. Why can't you move yourself? Yeah.
Leia.
Why can't you move yourself and stay alive in space for a little bit? Well, I'm fine with that. Driving a ship in hyperspeed through another ship absolutely makes sense in my mind. It's just that one thing.
It's just the Luke thing. That's your.
Doesn't somebody else do it too in that movie though?
I mean,
somebody else uses it too.
Rey and Kylo kind of use a similar power to speak to each other.
That's what. Yes. Okay.
And I love that about this movie. Did you not like that?
I just no.
I think that
because even if here's why I don't like it. If they knew where the other person was and could choose to project themselves to that spot, I would like that. I would be able to understand that that's what Luke did. I get that. It's the fact that they don't know where they are, but they can just magically appear and have full conversations with each other without knowing where they are. And
so you want more of an explanation as to how this is even possible.
I more just want them not to do it. But yeah, I would. Now that they've done it, I would like an explanation.
I think that's yet another
mysterious force.
it's yet another tool used in this movie that's never been done before, never even been thought of before.
Sure are a lot of tools used in this movie. I'll tell you
and
much.
Some would say, because it's never been done before and that we haven't seen it in these films, that therefore it wouldn't make sense for it to happen now. I think that device, that plot device of them being able to speak to each other is so interesting, because there is I can't think of a single film ever where you got a hero and villain who throughout a film speak to each other, but there isn't this sense of like threat, because like usually, if you've got a good guy and a bad guy speaking to each other, they're with each other face to face and they're at odds with one another. They might be fighting, or they might not want to get close or not want to speak to each other. You got this like Skype dynamic going on where they're speaking to each other, and even though they're enemies, and if they're in the same room together, they would attack each other. They get to just talk, and we get to learn so much about Rey and Kylo.
But I think that's because at that point when they're talking, I feel like he still has some redeeming qualities, some human redeeming qualities that don't make him a complete a-hole. Like, yes, he kills his dad, sure.
Yeah.
Who doesn't want to do that every now and then? But he's got, Kylo has two sides. Crazy, upset, mean Kylo. And then when he's calm and tranquil, it's just him pouring out why he's the other way most of the time, I feel like. What happened to him and how he feels and why he is that way.
Yeah, he's struggling to be this thing that he wants to be.
Yeah.
It's like this weird, it's like schizophrenic.
It is, kind of. He's definitely, it seems like he has multiple personalities.
Yeah.
One thing I did like in this movie, what's the bad guy, Snoke? Mm-hmm. Is it just Snoke or like
Snoke? Yeah,
Sir Snoke.
I mean, they call him like
Grandmaster,
Imperial Leader Snoke, or something like that. Supreme Leader Snoke.
Supreme Leader. Yeah, that's what I was looking for. His soldiers, those uniforms.
Oh, they're so cool.
Sharp, like a Kanye video. Sharp.
That, on top of all the things that I've already listed that I like about this movie, the
wardrobe.
The wardrobe, the planets, the set pieces, all the visuals in this movie, I think up the game in Star Wars so much.
I will give that
the planet, I believe it's called Crate, the planet at the end, the salt planet, where anytime the ground is touched, it turns red.
Oh, yes. That was killer.
The most gorgeous visual I've seen in any movie in a long time.
And those things racing across it, too. Yeah. That was amazing.
It just like, it created this... It kind of suggests violence without actually being overly violent or gory.
Well, like when the first guy steps onto it and he's like, oh, and then he like licks it. I honestly, when he went to lick it, I was like, what are you doing? That's like obviously blood. There's blood from something. And you're like panicked.
Yeah.
It instantly does put you on edge. But then he licks it. Salt.
And I think that the hyperspace scene, I've already brought it up. I think that it's incredible, imaginative, gorgeous. I was stunned. I saw this movie twice in the theater, and I was just, my jaw dropped both times. It was incredible. Just the silence for like 10 seconds was just... It was amazing.
It was. I think the crystal foxes on that planet as well were
so cool.
Pretty cool. One thing, and I kind of want to rewind here. Two things, actually. The girl who is clearly in love with John Boyega.
Yeah, Rose is her name.
Rose.
Yeah.
But before we jump into Rose, let's talk about Rose's sister, because this was one of my biggest qualms with the movie. She's got that bomber ready to drop it over the whatever. What do they call the big bad guy ships?
It's Star Destroyers. They call them like a few different names.
Yeah, something like that. But she's in her bomber, trying to hit the button to let all the bombs go right on top of it. And it's, of course, on the very edge... falling like about to fall down towards her so she can get it. She's banged up. She can't move. She's just literally laying on the floor, like reaching. And then it falls. And it's blatantly falling past her. And I feel like that it was just a bad editing job. They gave way too much time for it to fall past her before her arm reached out and grabbed it. I get the suspense. But I was like, no way, BS. I hate this. Then she pushes the button. Fine. She dies. I was just like, I'd much rather would have just seen the whole thing crash into that ship.
Yeah.
Give me two of those in one movie. Just crash the ship. Because I just thought that was kind of a gimmicky cheap scene.
Yeah, I think that the point of that scene inside that bomber ship is kind of to characterize that girl, and then in turn that helps characterize Rose, because you're like, oh, you already know so much about her. You know that her sister just died.
Yep.
You know about how dedicated this family is to the resistance. But yeah, I think what you're getting at next is Rose's storyline with Finn.
Yeah.
It's certainly the weakest part of the film.
Yep.
I think that the way that...
Even the kiss.
Yeah.
Such a weak kiss.
And I've heard that criticism a lot also. And I do agree, it's not a passionate kiss that I didn't buy the romance between them. But I think it's also kind of intentional. I think that Finn is noticeably kind of taken aback, and he's surprised by it too. I think that we as the audience are feeling what Finn is feeling, which is like, wait, this is not what I was expecting at all.
I agree with that.
It's not a two-sided romance.
It's not at all, but that's my whole point. She's dying. It's her last chance. She's going to give him that little worthless peck to the guy who she's clearly in love with.
So you wanted like a tongue sesh.
If I'm dying and I'm going to kiss someone against their will, or without them knowing that
you're going to give John Boyega one smackaroo,
tongue in, wide open mouth, the little uvula in the back of my throat just bopping around.
You're going to be remembered for that when you pass away.
I want that. I don't want him to forget it ever if I'm Rose in that scenario. She's got nothing to lose. Now that's not the time to put on your white gloves and take him to an evening ball. Get weird with it. Lick his face,
Fair enough, Kevin.
I don't know. Rose just kind of upset me.
So, the end of this movie leaves us with the resistance is very small, like maybe a dozen people.
Yeah.
Including Rey.
Yeah.
And then you've got Kylo, leading the First Order.
What was Kylo's kind of, I don't want to say other half, but the redheaded guy?
Hux? What is his name?
Does he die?
No.
He gets kind of tossed around.
Yeah, I don't think he died.
Okay.
I love the moment where Hux, earlier in the movie, he is contemplating killing Kylo.
Yep.
And then he instantly acts like, he shows his allegiance to him as soon as he realizes that he's awake.
Yes.
So, this film leaves us in a place that is very open-ended. I think that the next movie could either pick up the next day, or they could just fast forward 3 years, 10 years. They could do whatever they want.
Yeah.
Because this movie, in many ways, it feels like a conclusion for the time being. I feel like the last film in this trilogy kind of has almost a fresh slate. Because we wrapped up so much in this film.
I think any time a Jedi evaporates and disappears, that you are at a new starting point. I agree. I mean, it checks a lot of boxes. I don't know. This movie didn't make me excited to see what was next, I guess. I'm not optimistic for the rebellion. I'm not optimistic for anybody being led by Kylo Ren. And then there's just really nobody left. I assume, here's my one guess for the next movie, one of the Jedis will come back.
By that you mean Luke or Yoda?
Mainly Luke or Yoda. Or, I don't know. I just feel like they're going to have to bring an older character back.
You think so?
I think so. I get that you're saying almost the exact opposite, like they want to start fresh and new.
Yeah.
But I don't think they can do that.
That's really, this film's thesis statement is forgetting the past, moving on, making something new for yourself. But Rey's lineage, killing Snoke.
Yeah.
This movie just wants to draw a line in the sand and say, all right, all that stuff you love, it's gone. I think that's very much a meta, a commentary straight to the fans, because there's a lot of Star Wars fans who hate this movie to death because it just completely craps on
the old stuff.
What they love and what was so important to them. But I think this movie is kind of pulling off a Band-Aid, because if Disney is going to keep making these movies, expand this universe so much, there's going to be a point where fans are not going to like the directions where it goes. With these spin-off movies, it's going to go places that original hardcore fans going to be disappointed by. But they have much bigger goals. They're not trying to appeal to that small subset of hardcore fans. They're trying to appeal to everybody.
And I get that. That's what Disney does. But I don't think you're giving the hardcore Star Wars lovers enough credit. I think you're painting them as very pessimistic, not open to anything new. And I think for as much new just as many new things that were introduced in this movie, I think that the 3 or 4 things that they took issue with, I understand why they took issue with. And I don't think they're not open to seeing new things. And I don't think that... at the end of the day, they're going to go see the movies. And they're going to... Sure, everyone bitches about something from these movies.
Yeah.
Everyone can pick a few things from each movie that they don't like or that they think goes against the canon or that they think doesn't make sense. I think it's just because we're living in the current time where Disney's doing these that some people may be a little snarkier about it.
Yeah, we kind of live in a time of
snark
outrage culture. Oh. People like to take their
How
anger
dare you?
For something.
How dare you?
And it goes viral. It's shared among others. Yeah. It's very easy to spread your snark and negativity.
I agree.
But
that's why we started this podcast.
I get where you're coming from. I get that there's... I'm not trying to say that hardcore Star Wars fans, don't deserve these new movies or don't appreciate them or whatever. I get that there's legitimate criticisms of this film. I'm very interested to see because Force Awakens was a very safe movie. I mean, I don't think people were generally upset by what that movie did to the Star Wars name. It pretty much just was a throwback to what made Star Wars great.
They introduced new stuff in that too, though.
But the Episode 9, it's also directed by J.J. Abrams, who directed Episode 7, Force Awakens. And so I'm very curious to see if he kind of brings it back and says, okay, because Rian Johnson directed Episode 8, I'm curious to see if J.J. Abrams says, all right, you're Rian Johnson, you took it too far. We need to kind of bring this home for a safe landing.
Now, is Solo, is that Ryan?
No, that actually was originally directed by these guys, Lord and Miller, and then they were fired on the job like halfway through production, and then Ron Howard came in to finish the job. So Ron Howard he's not really known for being a super stylistic director. He's just pretty by the book.
Don't you throw any Star Wars movie you want under the rug. Don't you dare knock Ron Howard in my house. I grew up on Happy Days.
He was brought in specifically to bring the movie back on course. I'm not in any way trying to insult Ron Howard by saying that. I'm saying that he is a tried and true director who's worked for decades and has proven time and time again to make quality movies.
Lord and Miller. Now they're quality movies.
Lord and Miller are comedic directors, and they've done some pretty off-the-wall stuff, and from what it sounds like, Disney was not happy with the direction of Solo, so they brought in a seasoned veteran.
I just want to confirm, you called Ron Howard a by-the-book director. Now I just want to list off Willow. Have you seen the movie Willow? Would you call that by the books? How about A Beautiful Mind? How about American Graffiti, one of the classics? Apollo 13, that ring a bell? How about Cocoon? Cinderella Man? Splash?
Do you think that by the books is an insult?
I do. Ransom, The Music Man. Osmosis Jones. Cowboys and Aliens. I mean, you call those by the book?
Speaking of taking risks, I am still working on my
You've drank
my Cosmic Pineapple Coolatta.
You've drank a lot more of your Coolatta.
And we could talk about Star Wars all day, clearly.
Yeah.
I want to get to a verdict.
Okay.
So, the Cosmic Coolatta, you had the cotton candy flavor.
Yeah.
I want to know your thoughts. Thumbs up, thumbs down.
I'm going to give it a huge thumbs down. Just across the board, not good in any way. Not any redeeming quality. Texture, taste, look, all bad.
I'm going to have to agree. Mine, I don't think, was quite as abrasive. I didn't have as strong of a reaction as you.
I'm sure pineapple...
But it's just kind of there. I would never choose to get it.
No.
It's a little too citrusy for my liking.
I think we need to take a break from semi-frozen beverages for a while, because prior to this podcast, I hadn't had one of these in years.
There's a lot.
And we've been nailing them.
And I would imagine they're fairly cost-effective because these each cost me a few bucks.
Yeah.
I got some ice and some juice in a cup.
Yeah. Well, juice is expensive. It's not like it grows on trees.
Depends on where you get your juice. These Comic Candy donuts. I mean, I'm just going to give it a thumbs down because I'd rather just have a plain donut.
I love the donut. Scrape the sprinkles off.
Right.
I love that donut.
Like, why even bother with that texture, with having to pick those off? Just get yourself a vanilla donut.
Yeah.
Get yourself a chocolate.
Yeah.
Get a Long John if you're feeling spicy.
Do anything. Oh, also, I do, just before we kind of wrap things up here, I'd like to give a shout out to Lupita Nyong'o for her role.
Maz Kanata.
Instantly in my heart. Loved every scene she was in. Even when they, like, conference her in and she's basically having, like, a big battle or something.
Yeah.
Loved her. When she took her glasses off. Loved it. Just want to give her some credit.
I love, like, the heavy implications that her and Chewbacca have had romantic relations.
Yes. Well, they have. Chewbacca gets it done. He's no Rose, that's for sure.
So, are you excited for Solo? Are you excited for Episode 9? What are your thoughts on Star Wars movies to come?
Solo makes me a little nervous just because I don't like the look of the new Han Solo. And as I said previously, Han's probably my favorite character. So I should be excited for this. The rest of the cast I am very much in love with. Big fan of Donald Glover. Huge fan of Emilia Clarke. Let me reverse that. Big fan of Emilia Clarke. Huge fan of Donald Glover. What's his name is in it too? Paul Bettany. Not Bethany. Paul Bettany's in it.
Our friend from last week.
Our friend from last week also appears in this. And I'm very excited, but I don't think it's going to be that good.
All right.
So we'll see. Episode 9, now that I know it's the same director as The Force Awakens, yeah, I'm optimistic. I'll see it. I do probably not before Solo, but probably right after Solo comes out and we watch that, I'm going to jump right back into rewatching the original 6. Just because I feel like there's so much that I still need to connect the dots on.
Yeah.
Because even after we watch these, after I watch these, I went online and just did research for a bit, and you just miss so much when you're just watching.
Yeah, it takes many watches to get the details.
Maybe I'll do your strategy of every Sunday for a year straight, renting.
Yeah, I'm super excited for Solo. I think it's going to be a fun romp.
Ooh, I think it will be. I think they're going to go for more fun than...
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to Episode 9. I think that it's probably going to feel a lot like Force Awakens. It's going to feel like the original movies. I think it's going to be a fun wrap up to the series. It's going to...
Is it the last wrap up?
It's the last of this trilogy.
Oh, okay.
Now, Disney has announced Rian Johnson, who directed Episode 8, The Last Jedi. Before The Last Jedi was even released, Disney announced that he is getting his own trilogy.
Oh, no.
And at the time, people were really excited. And then once the movie came out and so many fans were so unhappy with the film, there's been a lot of...
pushback?
Yeah, there's literally, like, if you Google, like, The Last Jedi petition, there's people, like, trying to petition to get this guy removed from that job.
Good. I will be signing that petition.
There's a lot of hate going on. And they also have confirmed, they haven't said it's a trilogy, but they've confirmed that the writers of Game of Thrones are getting their own series. The showrunners of Game of Thrones are getting their own series of movies. They did not clarify if that was a trilogy. Could be 4 or 5 movies, could be 2 movies, we don't know.
Yeah.
But they are getting their own movies.
And that I am jazzed about.
So we know for an absolute fact right now they've got at least like 5 movies.
Oh, they're never going to stop.
The can. They're not gonna.
No.
I think that as long as they stick to at most 1 a year, I think they're already kind of reaching a level of oversaturation.
Saturation.
They've got to understand how important it is to keep this a little bit sacred, you know? With the Marvel films, they're going at like 3 a year right now, and it's like you've got so many different characters doing different things.
Yeah.
It kind of works.
But with
really Star Wars, I mean, so far these movies have been a pretty linear story. Even Rogue One was still, it was just a prequel to A New Hope. It was still involved.
Yep.
It still had to do with that core story, but now obviously with Solo as well. But I'm really interested to see with these new movies, do they branch way out? Are they going to just introduce a brand new set of characters that are in no way connected to anything else? I think they kind of have to, because I don't see how they keep building on this and just kind of telling similar stories.
I mean,
and expect people to keep caring.
I think they will do that, but I think it'll be a 1 to 2 movie transition. I don't think it will be like everyone's dead, here's your new crew.
You think kind of like a passing of the torch?
I think it'll be kind of like if you will, The Force Awakens and Last Jedi, I feel like, teamed up to do that. Took out a few characters in each one. At the end of those 2, you end up with essentially a new crew.
Yeah.
I think it would be something like that instead of, one big event or one big shift to a new crew, or just like a blank, fresh start with a new crew.
Yeah. And it's the last shot of The Last Jedi is the child, with a broom. He's clearly, Force sensitive.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think that shot right there just opens up this world to like, where in the galaxy are there Jedi? Or like, I mean, and these movies don't even have to be about Jedi. There's so much more to this universe than just people with lightsabers and the Force.
That's true. And that's one place they went to with the racing, where Poe and what's her face went, or Finn, the gambling city.
Oh right, yeah. I actually thought. I know we're back on Last Jedi now. Yeah. I thought that whole, even though that side quest felt a little disconnected, I thought that was some really cool world building.
Yes,
it really gave context to like.
Yes,
it was kind of this like felt like for 20 minutes this movie was directed by Bernie Sanders. And it was like, we understand the politics of this world better than we ever have before.
Yeah. I feel like, in my head, I felt like it switched to like a James Bond-esque type movie for that scene.
Yeah, like the mission they're on.
The mission they were on, and just like the kind of high, snobriety people walking around. I did really like that side quest, though. And it does, like you said, world building. It's not a dusty, kind of spread out town of like random, basically bad people. Like I feel like every place you go to, other than Yoda's swamp and like 3 places, are all dusty desert
or just like desolate, just not many people. Yeah,
and to see like something other than the main city where the Senate is, to see like another type of, I guess, city, town. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a different breed of people.
Yeah,
like, the idea of this group of people who. The troubles that are going on in the world don't affect them because they're just so rich.
Yeah.
That's such an interesting idea that has never been in these movies before.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see where these films go. I think that if they keep expanding the universe, give us characters like these that are built on strong foundations that we care about.
Yep.
I'm down for it. I'm excited.
Yeah.
And
as long as Rian Johnson, is out, I'm in.
So sign those petitions, kids.
Yep. Get out there. All 6 of you, get out there.
So, you can find all of our episodes on Apple Podcasts and SoundCloud, and actually we're available on Stitcher, TuneIn, Player FM. We're on all the apps these days. Spotify has not accepted my application, and for that I started a delete Spotify campaign on Twitter, hashtag delete your damn Spotify.
If you go to our website, fastfoodfilmfriends.net, we actually have just one petition you need to sign that will actually sign that Spotify petition as well as the Rian Johnson petition. And you only need to do it once, so you can knock out 2 birds with 1 stone. So on top of the million different podcast apps we're on, we do actually have a social media presence as well. You can find us on Facebook at Fast Food Film Friends. And then also we have a pretty enthralling Instagram page that I would highly recommend you go follow. Let's just say if we get 10 followers by next week, we'll have a big surprise. Big surprise for you. And that's Fast Food Film Prince as well on Instagram. You can message us, tell us what you'd like us to review. Tell us, if you've got a good idea for fast food, maybe we can whisper in the ear of McDonald's or Burger King and get them to crank it out for you.
If you just want us to strictly drink frozen beverages from here on out, let us know.
Please.
If the people want it, it's what they get.
That's right. That is right.
And until then,
farewell. Excuse me, by the way, I'm just casually taking my socks off because I'm a little hot. Star Wars just gets me going,